Pete, let's talk about Newcastle. We know that Alexander Isak is got a foot out the door, give or take, come this summer. Could they potentially rival some of the top clubs for the signing of Victor Gyökeres as a new striker in at St. James Park?
It would come as a surprise to me if they were to lure Gyökeres away from Sporting Lisbon. Obviously, Gyökeres is probably the most in-demand striker in Europe right now with the form that he's shown for club and country in the last 12 months or so. I think he's got 24 goals in 21 games this season for Sporting, which is an unbelievable record. Also, his price tag, I think, would be very prohibitive for Newcastle, even though we constantly say on this show Newcastle are the richest club in the world. They're not able to spend that money because of PSR and FFP, and that's really sort of restricting Eddie Howe from what he wants to do and his ambitions at the club in that respect. I think the competition for Gyökeres will be intense. I don't expect him to leave in January. I don't think there's anybody out there who will stump up the money to meet his release clause, which is around 80 million euros. I don't see anybody doing that. But I think come the summer, I think Gyökeres himself might be open to the possibility of a move away to a bigger league than the Portuguese league. No disrespect to that league. And you've got the likes of Manchester United, obviously, with Ruben Amorim in there at Old Trafford. He would love to be reunited with Gyökeres. And you look at United so far under Amorim, they do look light up front and probably need a regular goal scorer if they are to get back challenging the rest of the elite of the Premier League. Manchester City have even been linked with Gyökeres, Arsenal, Chelsea. So that's going to be a lot of clubs that Newcastle are going to have to beat to sign Gyökeres. The only way I could see Newcastle signing Gyökeres was if they sold Isak for big money come next summer and then they reinvest that into Gyökeres. But there's no guarantee that would even be able to win that race for Gyökeres, because I'm guessing a player like him will want to be playing Champions League football like he is right now with Sporting Lisbon as well. So there'll be lots of obstacles for Newcastle to clear to have any real possibility of signing Gyökeres.
Yeah, but you look at Gyökeres now and you look at him now playing at Sporting, all of a sudden he's attracting these huge transfer fees. Do you think there's a little bit of Premiership snobbery on this when you look at the Championship? When you look at he was on loan at Coventry, signed at Coventry, scored the goals at Coventry City, and we've seen numerous strikers do that in the Championship. These clubs that are looking at Gyökeres now, you're talking tens of millions for him, near on the 100 million mark. But 2, 3, 4 seasons ago, 2023, when he's at Coventry City, you can pick him up for 20 million. Is there a little, do you think there's I don't know, Will, what do you think? Do you think there's a little bit of Premier League snobbery looking down the Championship? Because there's a lot of good strikers in the Championship who can make that step up, but it's taken him to go to Sporting. We're now talking about him in the 80, 90 million bracket mark, whereas 2 seasons ago at Coventry, you pick him up for 20 million.
There's no doubt. I mean, I weirdly watched a lot of Coventry City that season because for one of my other podcasts, I cover Arsenal loan players, and Brooke Norton-Cuffy, a young right back, was on loan there, and there was no doubt that he was a Premier League level talent watching him. I mean, he created every single goal for them, whether he was scoring, assisting, or just being crucial in the build-up. I do think there's some Premier League snobbery because Coventry asked for 20 million that season, and I think Everton, Brentford, and maybe one other club wouldn't go higher than 15 million. So he goes to Sporting and he's scoring bags of goals in the Champions League. Yes, I think there is some feeling that, there was they missed the opportunity to get him for cheap, and now hundreds of millions for a player who, again, I think the Portuguese league, there's a little bit of snobbery there from the Premier League where they don't want to spend big money on a striker from there. Look at how Darwin Núñez has worked out, who is obviously a very volatile player in a lot of ways. So yes, I that is how I would think the Premier League looks at it.
He had 3 seasons at Brighton, didn't get a first team opportunity. He was there at Brighton. He was there for all to see. St. Pauli, Swansea as well, on loan at Swansea. Played 11 games at Swansea in the league. Coventry for 2 seasons, 1 on loan. So you would think the opportunity is there. These Premier League teams that are watching players, the scouts that are watching players, struggle to see how he's gone under the radar. Signed for Sporting 2 seasons ago. All of a sudden now we're talking about him as a high bracket player.
And I think his performance against
get it in the pocket. Sorry, Will. Those Premier League clubs are going to have to fork out, and they've missed the opportunity. They've missed the boat. When Sporting obviously noticed that Gyökeres could step up and play at a higher level, they got him for 20 million. They're going to make a huge profit on him probably come next summer, and Coventry City will also be in for a big windfall as well, as they have a sell-on clause as well. But probably hat tip to Brighton, because they noticed his potential first and signed him. Obviously he didn't get a run in the side at Brighton. They loaned him out and then moved to Coventry. But Gyökeres' his rise to stardom in the last 18 months, 2 years has been unbelievable, and I do fully expect those Premier League big boys to come calling for him in the summer.
One thing I will say is I think Premier League clubs will use that poor performance against Arsenal in the Champions League as a kind of, negotiation tactic, saying, he can't do it against a Premier League club, yada, yada. But obviously there's no doubting his goal-scoring ability.
Well, he got a hat-trick against Man City, so...
Yes, he did. Kieran Trippier, seemingly no longer a regular on the team sheet for Newcastle. We spoke a lot about it in the summer, about him potentially leaving, but January, could they try and cash in on him, try and ease those FFP issues that they're having?
Yeah, there's potential that maybe Kieran Trippier could be moved on if they do want to sort of raise some funds for their own transfer plans as well. Obviously, Kieran's had a disappointing season so far. He's lost his place in the first team to Tino Livramento, who's been outstanding for me at right back for Newcastle this season as well. He's had a few injury problems as well, Trippier, so yeah, we haven't seen the best of Trippier. He was the very first signing under Eddie Howe and the new ownership for Newcastle, and what a great signing he was, helping them get into the Champions League and everything else. But he's 34 now, Trippier, so he's coming into the twilight of his career, 18 months left on his deal, and he will be one of the highest earners at St James's Park as well. So I would imagine if a big offer came in for Trippier, something that Newcastle would definitely consider. But again, on the flip side of that, Eddie Howe will be reluctant to weaken his squad because he's had so many injury problems with other defensive players as well. So if Trippier was to leave Newcastle in January, I think Eddie Howe would be looking guarantees that he would be allowed to bring in a replacement for him as well. So yeah, maybe it's that time for both parties maybe to move on. Newcastle have moved on with Livramento, the first choice right back, and Kieran Trippier probably needs to be playing regular first team football at this stage of his career as well.